series called I Hate It Here. I hate it here. And last week was a message called Killing Me Softly. If you missed it, not going to reteach it, go watch it. It's on our YouTube channel, Empowerment Anywhere. Killing Me Softly was last week. Some of y'all are like, man, what was that about? Go watch it. that's my advice. That's all I'm going to say about it. But this series is called I Hate It Here. And I'm telling you definitively, unapologetically, no hesitation whatsoever, that ultimately, if you're going to reimagine where you can go, reimagine what's possible with you, through you, and for you, then ultimately you have to be able to have enough non-judgmental conversation with yourself, about yourself, and with God about who you are and where you are. And many of us are dealing with the realities of toxic environments, of toxic habits, of toxic relationships, to say the least. And in order to begin reimagining where we can go and what we can do, we must first come to the conclusion and admit out loud that where we are is no longer working for me. And I may not know what's next, but I know I hate it here. That's honest. That's honest, non-judgmental conversation with yourself, about yourself, and with God about where you are, with God about how you're feeling. And while there are some people who may suggest other things about that truth, I am telling you that when I read the word of the Lord, that this is unapologetically what his place and his posture that he desires for us to go. Not in a place where we approach him with lies in our prayers, but where we approach him with honesty in our prayers about where we are, about how we're feeling, about what we're going through. Because many of us have begun to settle for less than his best in areas of our lives because bad structures, because misinformed believers, because of very, very religious Pharisee people have told us that God wants us to live in misery, and that is completely not true. That yes, we will suffer for the gospel, and yes, we were called to be soldiers in this work, but he also told us that we should have joy, and that joy will be made full, complete, and overflowing, lacking nothing. That we should be people of love, that we should go through things, yes, but as we go through them, we should be a way while we're going through them. Like that is his intention. And so some bad stuff has happened to some of us, and some of us have had some bad information that's led us to believe some stuff that is very, very simply not true. Mark chapter number 8. Mark chapter number 8 is where I want to anchor our time today. Mark chapter number 8. Mark chapter number 8, begin reading at verse 22. Mark chapter 8, begin reading at verse number 22. It says this: they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. And when he had spit on the man's eyes and had put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" He looked up and said, "I see people. They look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were open. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. His eyes were open. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. And Jesus sent him home, saying, "Don't even go into the village." Sent him home, saying, "Don't even go into the village." For our time together today, I want to tag our brief exchange in week 3 of this I Hate It Here series by calling this I'm Sick of Settling. I'm sick of settling. I'm telling you, while I wrestled all week long, if I pulled out my notebook and showed you, I've got a ton of things in which I called this and wanted to call this, and this was just the one I ended up landing back at and happened to have written down at the moment, because ultimately this passage teaches us so many things. There's a lesson around this particular passage. These 4 verses are truths about our lives through the life of this blind man. That there are so many truths about this blind man, Jesus, and even the people who were around this blind man. That there are so many things that you and I must understand. And here it is. I want to start off by asking you a question. Where in your life have you settled? Notice I didn't ask you, are there areas in your life where you have settled? Because some of you would start off by telling me no. And if you start off by telling me no there, you're not going to give me an honest answer with my follow-up question. Because the truth of the matter is this: many of us, whether we are aware of it or not, have found areas where we have become uncomfortably comfortable and complacent, not realizing that we were actually settling for less than God's best. That there are areas of our life, areas of our faith, areas of our professions, areas of our spirituality where we have settled for less than the Lord's best. Areas where we would have normally done some things, carried out ourselves in a way that was filled with joy, that we now walk into with such great despair. Areas where we used to be so passionate about people, that we used to be so on fire to be around, and now we hate it, we hate them, and we hate it here. Settling. And here it is. I want you to be clear about this, that some of you have had moments that confirm and affirm the reality that joy is a possibility. Moments that confirm that peace is probable. Moments that confirm that there is something in life and some things in life that bring such satisfaction and fulfillment that can only come from a real, true, genuine walk in relationship with God that's moving in purpose and on purpose. Moments where we've had glimmers and glimpses into what it feels like to not just be on fire for the Lord, but to also be walking in fulfillment of purpose. And what I'm telling you is that those two things should not be separate. Those two things should undeniably be the reality of the believer, that as I am following the Lord, I should be walking in the fulfillment of my divine purpose, because he didn't just call me here to play. He didn't just call me here to exist. He called me here on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. And some of us, for one reason or another, have found ourselves caught going through the motions instead of living our life with very intentional movement. Are you going through the motions instead of living your life with very intentional movement? Here it is, family. Only God knows your full potential. But God is doing his work, has done his work to guide you toward the best version of yourself. He has many tools that he uses. And the challenge, though, is this. Come closer. Put the distractions down. While he knows our full potential, and while he is acutely aware of the purpose he has placed within us, and while he has many tools that he uses to develop us, he is never in a hurry to get us there. Now, when I say he's never in a hurry, I mean he never rushes the developmental process to prepare us for where he's taking us. Now, that can be frustrating for us. It can make some of us quit. It can make some of us settle. It can make some of us believe that just because I haven't gotten there yet, I won't get there. But God can even be at work in your frustration when you're honest about the fact you're frustrated. I'll say it again. God can even be at work with us when we are frustrated, when we're willing to be honest about the fact that we're frustrated. Because, see, some of us won't be honest about the fact that I do not like where I am. I do not like how I am. I do not like how I've been feeling. And because we won't be honest about how we've been feeling and that we've been feeling a way, we won't be able to step out of how we've been feeling and move toward the feeling that He intends for us to have. Reb, I've heard you talk a lot about feelings, and typically when you tell us we shouldn't trust our feelings, you shouldn't. I'm not talking about being in your feelings. I'm saying that He made us people that would feel things. So if you're not experiencing joy, I'm not saying you should never experience joy. Joy is different from happiness. Happiness is based upon happenings. Happiness is based upon some things that occur. But joy, it makes it clear, is something the world didn't give. Therefore, the world can't take it away. Joy comes from when I am confident and I am clear on who God is and on who I am to Him. Joy happens when I walk into a room and despite whatever anybody else has to say about me, I'm clear on who God called me to be and that God called me to be in it. God knows your full potential. God knows what is possible. And He is at work even through our frustrations when we are willing to be honest about the fact that we are frustrated. He never gets discouraged by how long some things take, but He does delight in when we're honest enough to grow. He never gets discouraged by how long something takes, but He does become encouraged and delight when we grow. Let me be clear about what I mean when I say that. It does not mean that we should take our times becoming spiritually mature. It means He's willing to work on us longer if that's what it requires before He just puts us in the place that we want to be. Yeah, it does not mean that we should take our time. It means that there are some times where He takes His time. It doesn't mean that we should take our time, but it does mean that there are some times where He takes His time. There are some times when instead of taking us the short route, He takes us the way through the wilderness. While there was an easier path to get the children of Israel to Egypt, out of Egypt into Canaan, there was an easier pathway. He took them the long way because there was a necessary path of development required to ultimately see if they would trust the process to get to the promise. So He is more willing to allow them to go through the process than He is concerned about whether or not the promise is possible. I came to tell you the promise is possible, but are you willing to go through the process to experience what He has promised? He doesn't get discouraged by how long some things take. And there's some of you today that have settled because things have been taking too long. You've been this way so long. You've been around these kind of people so long. You've invested so much time in these kind of environments. And so as a result, you say, I can't step out of this because I've been doing this for this long. And you have settled and you have come to a place where you are so frustrated and agitated that you no longer become frustrated because you no longer continue to care. It's a scary place to be at. When the stuff that once frustrated you no longer frustrates you, and it's not because you grew, it's because you stopped caring. It's because you stopped believing that advancement and transformation and better was possible. It is the absolute explanation of what I am attempting to articulate about settling. When you stop believing God, only God can see the best version of you, and He is more concerned with you reaching the fullness of your potential than you are. Somebody needs to hear that today, this morning, whenever you're watching this. God, the one you may feel like has forgotten about you. God, the one you may feel like has neglected you. God, the one you may feel like has left you out here by yourself. God, the one you feel like doesn't see you, is more concerned about you reaching the fullness of your redemptive potential than you are. And just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen ever. Just because He hasn't brought you through it yet doesn't mean he won't bring you out. Just because you don't see your way yet doesn't mean that sight is not possible. Just because you aren't there yet doesn't mean he wants you to settle for less than what you see. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which prepared us in advance for us to do. That's his word. That's what his word says, that you are not your handiwork, you are God's handiwork. Your life is not your project, your life is God's project. God thought you up and he knows where he intends for you to be. So if you do not get there, it's not because he did not intend for you to, it's because you stopped believing in you. You settled for safe. You settled for comfort. You settled, this is how I used to teach it, you settled for miserable mediocrity. You don't even like where you are, but you settled there. You don't even like how you feel when you wake up in the morning, but you settled there. You don't even like how you feel in these environments, but you settled there. And I want to tell you that flourishing, thriving, living a life of fruitfulness and fulfillment is not only possible, it should be the believer's portion. That God made us to flourish, to live with vitality. Flourishing is not measured by outward signs as we sometimes measure it, because I know some people with great income and an unfulfilled heart. Flourishing is not defined by possessions. I know a lot of people that have a lot of stuff and they still don't have peace. Flourishing is not even by attractiveness. I know some people that look real good on the outside, but on the inside, they look, use your imagination for what words you want to put right there. So what I am talking to you about today is about becoming the person that God had in mind. About becoming the you he sees when he looks at you. And there are some of you that have settled for less than God's best. Psalm 92:12 says that the righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will flourish in the courts of our God. I want you to know that you step into becoming the person God created you to be, one step at a time. That it doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen overnight. But just because you might have been introduced to it overnight doesn't mean you will become it overnight. Just because you saw a glimpse, just because you had a moment, just because you had this, doesn't mean it will always happen instantaneously, and nor will it happen automatically. But just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Here I am in Mark chapter number 8. In Mark chapter number 8, you find this blind man. This blind man who has people around him who brought him to Jesus. I want to ask you this question. I've asked you already, where in your life are you settling? Can I ask you another question? Are you settling for people who won't push you toward possibility? Are you settling for people who will allow you to settle for less than God's best? Are you settling for people around you who are not purpose partners, but they are problem projects? Oh, that was free. I just saw that right there. They're not purpose partners, but they are problem projects. purpose partners, people who will push you toward purpose, people who won't let you settle for less than God's best, people who will be honest with you about you, people who will help hold up a mirror to you at times to hold you accountable to what you said. That's why Reimagine Nights are so important on Wednesday, because they are developing purpose partners, accountability partners. It's why some people don't like me. It's because ultimately the only thing I choose to do is to live my life from a position of honesty. So if you ask me a question, I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm not going to say it to be hurtful towards you, but I'm going to say it to be honest to you, because I want God's best for you. It says, look, it says they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man to Jesus. That there were some people, that he had some people, that this blind man had some people around him who were so willing to help him move from where he was to where he could be. Like you got to get that. That's key and critical, because some of you all don't believe you need community. Some of you all don't believe you need community. We need community. We were not created to live life and to do life by ourselves. To live life by ourselves. It says in Genesis that for it is not good for man to live alone. We need community. For as iron sharpens iron, so does one sharpen one another. Forsake not yourselves the assembly of the saints together. For if 2 or 3 are gathered together, you could go on and on. We were intended. It says, for when they were all together on one accord, touching and agreeing. It says when they all came together in the book of Acts, they all put together everything they had. Those who had a lot and those who had a little. It's about the power of togetherness and unity. Do you have those kind of people? Or have you settled to believe that those kind of people don't exist? Can I ask you another question? Not just are you settling for those kind of people, have you settled to not be one of those kind of people? Because some of you all have settled for being the kind of person that watches the people in your life struggle without you saying anything. I see it in the chat. I feel you all coming for me and calling me petty today, but that's okay. Because some of you all have settled for being the kind of person that says, listen, you want to jump off the cliff, go jump. I feel that way about some people, but not the people who are close to me. And some of you, hear me, some of you today need to become honest enough with yourself and become healthy enough with yourself that you can have people in your life that can help push you toward purpose. And sometimes pushing you toward purpose is pointing out your problems and not letting you sit and settle, but says, listen, I'm going to take you to Jesus. Listen, I know you've been this way for however long you've been this way, but you don't have to stay this way. It says they took him to Jesus. Are you settling for those kind of people? The kind of people who won't take you to where you need to go. Yeah, so as you grow, sometimes the people around you either need to change or they need to be growing. There's an incredible book on, it was a business book I read when I was in one of my courses in school, and it was called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And sometimes the people who got you here, they got you here, and this is as far as they can take you. Don't make them bad. It just means for you to grow and advance, you need some people who can see where you're going. Some people who can see past where your problems are, see past what you've done in your past, see past what you may have been labeled in your past, but they can see you better. If I was in a church right there, I felt something sneak up on me. Do you have people in your life that while you may be blind right now, that they can see you getting better? Because I need people in my life that even when I can't see my way out, that they can speak to me and that they can take me by the hand and say that even though you don't see your way out yet, I see you getting better. I see you living better. I see you feeling better. I see you recovering. I see you coming out of everything that you've been in, and I see you stepping into everything you can be. And this word today is me being that for somebody watching, somebody listening. I see you being better than where you are. I see you stepping out of where you are. I see God pulling you into. I see you stepping away from and moving out of that into who he calls you to be, where he calls you to be it, and how he calls you to live it. Blindness. This man is blind. The state of blindness, every time we hear about blindness in Scripture, is not only to refer to natural blindness, it's also to refer to spiritual blindness. That there's a reality that some of us have sight but don't have sight. We got sight but we can't see. We can see with our eyes, but we cannot see what God is doing. We can see with our eyes our problems, but we don't have the eyes of faith that says it's possible. We can see with our eyes the facts, but we don't see anything with our eyes through the eyes of faith. We can see what's happening around us, but we don't see who's controlling everything that's moving around us. We can see all the problems that are happening, but we don't see what God is doing on the back end of it. And some of you today, you have been living your life blind. You went through all of 2021 and you didn't even realize you didn't have sight. And I'm trying to tell you right now that you need some people that even when you can't see your way out, that they can help you get there. Here it is. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and we were having a conversation around this truth that one of our mentors teaches us, and this is what he teaches us, and this is what we were sharing with this person. He taught us that we can see, we can always, you can always see everything else and everybody else, but you can never see yourself. That can be good or that can be bad. But some of you are so gifted and so talented and so full of potential and so full of value and so full of worth. But because of how life has handled you, because of how people have mishandled you, because of the trauma that you suffered and struggled through. I spent some time this week working with some education leaders about trauma and resiliency and recovery. Because of the trauma that you may have faced before, you don't feel your value and you don't have anybody around you who sees your value. So nobody around you is speaking life into you. They're only reaffirming the negative thoughts you already thought about yourself by them not speaking life into you. But the people in this blind man's life saw him getting better. And there are times in life, I'm telling you what I know. This is not what I think. I'm telling you what I know. You need people in your life that you can trust to speak to you about where you are and say, I understand where you are, but I'm telling you there's more inside of you. I'm telling you there's more for you. I'm telling you there's a you on the inside of you that you haven't met yet. This blind man had people who brought him to Jesus. And here it is. They didn't just bring him to Jesus. They begged Jesus to touch him. They begged Jesus to touch him. There are some of us who can be honest and are aware enough to know that I am not where I am. You are not where you are because of your own goodness. There was somebody who prayed for you. There was somebody that had you on their mind. There was somebody that took the time, as they used to say, and I'm so glad. I have no doubt in my mind, unequivocally, undeniably, that I am whoever I am becoming because of the prayers of my mother, because of the prayers of my grandmother. I can walk into a room where somebody knew my grandmother, and they will undeniably say, Teddy, your grandmother would be proud because she was praying that you would become somebody like you are. My grandmother passed while I was in high school. I was young in high school. I wasn't doing much of anything. I didn't have anything to point to say I would become anything. But she knew and she believed and she saw and she prayed. And I came to make it crystal clear to you that this spiritual family at Empowerment Anywhere is a family that will not let you stay where you are. It disturbs some people. It rocks some people. But I am not just the wow guy. I am unapologetic sometimes the ow guy, because sometimes you have to get hurt to get helped and to get healed. But I'm telling you today, there's some of you don't even know that I'm begging Jesus to touch you. I'm begging Jesus to have this encounter with you. That right now, as we're going, as y'all, some of y'all are fasting for personal stuff. I'm fasting for you. I'm fasting for change and transformation to break out in your lives. There's nothing I have on this list this time. Personally, on this fasting and praying, that's for me. There's nothing I'm praying for myself during this time of fasting and praying in January. But everything on my list is for you all. It's for you all, and it's for some other people groups that I have the privilege of serving. I'm believing for breakthroughs, and I'm believing that people will be able to have a fresh encounter, they will have the scales removed from their eyes, and they will begin to reimagine God's best for their life. The people, they brought the blind man, and they begged Jesus to touch him. They believed that God could do it. And there's some of you, your behaviors are telling what you believe. They believed Jesus could do it, so they started begging Jesus to do it. They believed Jesus could do it, so they got out of their comfort zone to take him there. I got to keep going. I'm only at one verse. Verse 23, he took the blind man by the hand, and when he led him outside the village, he took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. He took the blind man by the hand and he led him outside of the village. This is key and critical, because what I'm trying to tell you is that your beliefs will produce a behavior. Your beliefs will produce a behavior. If you've ever met anybody who is blind, they don't just let anybody help them. They are conscious and cognizant about who they let help them, because they do not want the wrong person to help lead them someplace they can't get out of. So these people, he had purpose partners who believed in him, and he had people that he believed in. So the purpose partners believed in him, the purpose partners believed in the Lord, and even though he did not know exactly who this man was, he believed in his purpose partners enough, and he must have believed something about this man that he couldn't see, but he must have believed something about him to trust him to lead him out of the place where his purpose partners were. Do you trust God to lead you out of your comfort zone? Do you trust God to leave you out of the place where you have become familiar? Do you trust him to move you away from the people you may have been doing life with for a season? Do you trust him to move you past everybody else? And some of you are in a season where he's been attempting to lead you out, but you have not been trusting him to see you through. Where has the Lord been trying to lead you out of that you won't move from? Because it says this blind man, he took him by the hand and led him outside. Some of you, if you're going to be honest today, instead of the Lord leading you, you've been trying to lead him. You've been saying, come on here, Jesus. Meet me over here, Jesus. Help me over here, Jesus. This is what I want to do. Lord, here's my plans. Bless my plans. And he's like, your plans are not my plans. What you're suggesting is not what I want to do. What you're saying to me is less than my best for your life. And here it is. I need you to stop settling. Jesus takes him by the hand and he leads him outside. He grabs him by the hand and he leads him outside. And I'm telling you, I have no doubt in my mind that while he may not be grabbing you physically by the hand, there are many of you who he's using his word to lead you out of. He is using his word to change your mind. He is using his word to change your heart. He is using his word to alter the limiting belief system you've been functioning with. He is using his word to alter whatever somebody else may have been lying to you about. He is using his word to lead you from somewhere. That's why some of you all are so agitated and frustrated. He's using that frustration as an indicator to tell you something is off. But here it is. Are you settling for comfortable? Number one, if you're going to be sick of settling, you got to be sick of settling for here. Because he could have said in comfort, right? He could have said in comfort. He could have said here. And some of you all, I'm gonna just stay here. It's safe here. I know what it is here. So you won't even say I hate it here because like, yo, at least I know what it is here. I was raised old school, born new school, raised old school. So they used to say all the sometimes one of those oldest sayings would be, it's better to know the demons that you do know than the demons you don't know. Man, demons are demons. I do not necessarily align with the conviction that it's better to play with the demons I do know than the demons I don't know. Demons are demons. And if I don't fight my demons will fight me. So I don't care whether they're demons I do know or demons I don't know. Demons are coming after me, and it is my job to fight those demons. But I'm not going to stay here because I know these demons. If here is not the place he has for me, and is there anybody here that says, I won't keep settling here? I won't stay here. I won't settle here. I won't stop here. He leads him out. Here it is. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to stay in my time, but here it is. He doesn't just settle. Tom, I know I'm trying, Tom. I really am. He doesn't just settle for coming to Jesus. I just saw this. He doesn't just settle for being brought to Jesus because some of us stopped at being brought to Jesus. Some of us stopped at being in the presence of Jesus. Some of us stopped at being brought to Jesus. We came to Jesus and that was it. We stopped there. I'm telling you, that is definitively, in my opinion, the more I think about it, a picture of us coming to him for salvation and stopping there. I'm in his presence. I've been introduced. I'm good. I don't need nothing else. You won't let him lead your life, but you made him Lord of your life. Yeah. Well, have you made him Lord and not leader? Have you made him Savior and not example? Have you been in his presence, but you don't believe his power? I'm not saying that salvation is not enough. I'm telling you salvation is the first step. It's not the last step. It's the open door. It's the door he opens to a life of transformation. It's the door he opens to a life of stepping out of who you were into a life of who you can be. So he leads him out of the village. And as he leads him, he does something strange. He does something strange. Are you willing? Some of y'all are not going to like this. Are you willing to go through strange processes to get to your promise? Are you willing to go through strange processes to step into your purpose? Are you willing to go through whatever the process may be? Unusual, unfamiliar, uncomfortable, undesirable. He gets spit on. It says when he spits on the man's eyes. It says when he spits on his eyes. This man couldn't see, but he could hear. He know what it's like when somebody spit. He could feel. He know what it felt like when somebody spit on his eyes. I heard you lick your lips, and I feel something wet on my eyes. I don't think this is water. Strange processes. What if God's taking you an unconventional route? And because it's unconventional, you've settled. What if he's taking you the long way? What if he's using things he wouldn't normally use to deliver you out of things? But because you're used to things being this way, I thought I would get healed this way. I thought I would get better this way. I thought I would get help this way. I thought this person was the one. I thought this place was the one. I thought this was the one. So you settled instead of dealing with the strange. Settle, staying here, where you settle instead of going through the strange. He spit on his hand. He spit on his eyes. He spit on his eyes, and then he put his hands on him. He spit on his eyes, and then he put his hands on him. Is God doing something unique using a unique process in your life. And because you didn't understand it, you settled for less than it. You settled for sick when he wanted to use strange. You settled for blindness when he wanted to use strange things to bring you out of that. Have you settled for a lack of clarity when he wanted to give you vision? Have you settled for stale and stagnant when he wanted to give you movement? Have you settled in comfortable complacency and miserable mediocrity when he called you to more? Have you settled for being how everybody else is when he never made you like everybody else? Have you settled there? He spits on his eyes. And he put his hands on them. And he asks him a question. Do you see anything? Do you see anything? Do you see anything? Do you know what his answer is? He looked up. He said, I see people, but they look like trees walking around. Many have argued this passage in multiple times about what this really means. I don't want to get into a deep theological debate with anybody about much anything in the Bible. So I'm just going to tell you what it means when I look at what it means, when I read it very clearly. What it means to me is he knows what people look like. But he knows the people he sees don't look like people. He said, I see people, but they look like trees. He knows what people look like, and he knows what trees look like. In other words, he said, I can see something, but I can't see clearly. I can see something, but I can't see clearly. Can I ask you a question? Do you see anything? Have you settled for tree sight? Have you settled for sight when you don't have clarity? Have you settled for being able to see something but not being able to see what he wants you to see? Have you settled for sight when he wanted to give you vision? Look at what happens. He says, I see people, and they look like trees walking around. Here's what he says. He's honest about the fact of what he sees. Here's what he says. This is to me what he says. What he says without saying it is, Lord, this is what I see. You tell me if this is right. I'm not going to tell you, oh, I see what I'm supposed to see. He said, do you see anything? He didn't say yes. Because he did see something. But he has enough sense to say, you know what? I see something, but what I see, I don't know if it's right. He said, so the question is, do you see anything? You say, I see people. They look like trees walking around. If the man says yes and doesn't say this, it's possible he doesn't get touched again. Is it possible that every touch was a test? Do you trust me enough to follow me? That was the first touch. The first touch was when he took him by the hand. Do you trust me enough to follow me? Or have you settled for comfortable complacency? The second touch is when he spits on his eye and then touches his eye. That's the second touch. Do you trust me enough to tell me the truth? Every touch is a test. So are you settling for here, and are you settling for how you are? Are you settling for where you are, and are you settling for how you are? Because some of you all are settling for how you are. You're like, yeah, this is where I am. This is how I am. I can see sometimes. Yeah, I can see. I just can't drive at night. And that's okay on the road. The answer is you just stay at home or you get somebody else to drive you. But you and I, spiritually, are called to live our life where we see with the eyes beyond the eyes in our head. Are you settling for staying how you are? He could have said, yep. What he says is, I see something, but I don't think I see what I'm supposed to see. What do you see? Are you willing to say, I see something, but I'm not yet seeing what I'm supposed to see? Because I don't believe Jesus didn't know it. I believe Jesus wanted to see if he was going to be honest. If you tell me what you see, I can put you back in alignment. But if you think where you are is okay, I'll let you stay there. If you're okay with settling for tree sight, I'll let you keep that. But if you tell me you want clear sight, I'll give you that. Where are you out of alignment? Where have you settled? And because you've settled, you've come out of alignment. I've talked to you all about this chiropractic journey I've been on before. Some of you all don't know this part. I'm still on it. It was not a one-time quick fix. It was not a one-year journey. I am in year 2 of getting my spine and my back and my body into its proper alignment. And because it is so used to being out of alignment, if I don't keep putting it back into alignment, it's going to keep coming back out of alignment. So every time I think it's okay for me to take some weeks off, I end up back in pain. I end up back with headaches. I end up back stuck because I'm not doing the work of keeping it in alignment. But when I'm in alignment, she has to apply some pressure. But after she applies the pressure, after I feel a little bit of the pain to come back into alignment, I get a release. I get relief. The headaches leave. The pain in the body leaves. And what may have been a night before where I couldn't sleep, when I'm brought back into alignment, I can sleep at night. And what I'm telling you is the same way my chiropractor works with my spine and works with the muscles and readjusts and realigns. Is the same thing the Lord does with this blind man. And it's the same thing he does with you and I. Is he wants to see, first of all, will you admit you're out of alignment so I can put you back in alignment? You can live your life one or two ways, with the pain of honesty or with the pain of regret, because every touch has a test. Every touch has a test. Every touch has a test. Pain of honesty, pain of regret. What does that mean, Rev? I'm glad you asked. The pain of honesty is sometimes I got to be honest about the fact that some stuff is hurting me, and I may have to feel a way about me being honest about it. I may have to say, you know what? Let me make this practical. When I'm on that table, sometimes she can go through everything she normally goes through. She could go through her whole routine, and there could be another client waiting there behind me. And even though there's another client waiting there behind me, if I'm not honest about the fact that I'm still uncomfortable, I'm going to walk out of there regretting I didn't say anything, because I'm headed for another day of pain, another day of discomfort. And it won't bother her, it will bother me. It won't impact her day, it will impact mine. And I will live with the pain of regret as I'll toss and turn at night, as I'll go through aches and pains in my body. Or I can deal with the pain of honesty, which means she may now have to do more work. She may now have to deal with the reality of, hey, what you just did didn't work. She may have to now deal with it taking longer than it was expected for the appointment. But the pain of honesty, this is I hate it here, is better than the pain of regret, of saying, I wish I would have said, I hate it here. The pain of honesty is so much easier to walk into than the pain of regret for settling for less than you were called to. Because here's what happens. It says in verse 25, once more, after he's honest about what he sees, once more, Jesus puts his hands on this man's eyes. His eyes were open. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Because he was honest, the pain of honesty, his sight, his eyes were open. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. His eyes were open. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. This is so important because I'm trying to tell you, I taught this before. When your vision gets clearer, decisions get easier. When your vision gets clearer, decisions get easier. There's some stuff you're having a hard time deciding about because you can't see clearly. You're not sober-minded. You settled and you've been frustrated and you've allowed other things to block in the way, and now you don't trust yourself with yourself. You don't trust your decisions. You don't trust this. You don't trust that. And ultimately, I'm telling you that the pain of honesty is so much worth is over the pain of regret. The pain of honesty trumps the pain of regret. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It says in verse 26, Jesus sent him home, saying, don't even go into the village. Sent him home and said, look, you don't even got to go back into where you just came from. You don't even got to go back through there. You don't got to go back through there. You don't even got to go back there. You don't got to go back there. I took care of that. You don't got to go back there. You don't got to go back to that place. I handled that. You don't got to go back to what you did. I took care of that. You don't got to go back to that other kind of stuff that happened to you. I handled that. You don't got to go back there. Don't go back there. I took you out of there. Don't go back to where I took you out of. Don't go back to where I took you out of. I'm sick of settling. The transformation of your condition requires a renewed perspective. The transformation of your condition requires a renewed perspective. Renewed perspective is not just about what I can see naturally, because seeing is not believing. Believing is seeing. Can I believe before I see it? Can I believe that something is on the other side of this before I can see what's on the other side of this? Can I believe that God's going to see me through this before God ever sees me through this? Can I believe that God is at work even when it does not feel like God is at work? Can I keep believing that just because 2022 has had a rough start, that the year and the day and the time and what's happening on his calendar, none of that dictates and determines what is possible with God? Because some of you all are like, man, I've settled for tree sight, and we feel like we deserve what we see, and we feel like I'm at where I am, and then we feel like we've done too much, and we've gone too far, and we've settled. We have settled. We have settled. We have settled. And we feel like because I am where I am, I've come this far, and I should just be grateful for where I've come. I should be grateful for where I am. And I'm telling you without a shadow of a doubt, you are settling for tree sight. Don't suffer from the pain of regret when you could have just dealt with the pain of honesty. I wasted that season of my life. I've ruined my moment. I've mismanaged my opportunity. I'll never get it back. I deserve to see men walking as trees. He says, do you see anything? And he's so honest that what we see is a picture of God's redemption. He says, listen, I noticed what you were seeing, but I was just waiting on you to be honest about it, because I got more for you to see. He says, I got more for you to see. And what you see right now, I got some more. What you see now does not compare to what I have in store. What you see now does not compare to what I have in store. And that's the word for you today. And somebody say, I'm sick of settling. Because what you see now does not compare to what he has in store. What you've been settling for in terms of your peace, in terms of your hope, in terms of your life, with some of the areas where you know what you've been settling for, what you have been tolerating, the people you've been settling with, the environments you've been accepting as normal, and God never called you to be normal. Sick of settling. So, Father, I pray today that you so disrupt the norms in our life, that you so disrupt the distractions in our life, that you so disrupt the areas where we have settled for less than your best. I pray that we will go through the pain of honesty to say, I hate it here. I hate settling for less. I hate living like this. I believe you called me to more. I believe you called me for more. Mold me, make me, shape me, refine me, develop me, lead me, guide me. Whatever you've got to do, have your way so that ultimately I can live the life you called me to live. Not a life that doesn't have problems, but a life that at least has joy while I'm going through it because I'm walking in obedience to your word. I pray today that we will allow you to lead us out of where we are. That we will leave our places of comfort if you're calling us out of that. That we will leave and that we will move and we will deal with the criticisms of the critics. That we will deal with the voices of the haters. That we will deal with everything else that comes along with walking with purpose and trusting and following you. Allow us to no longer settle for less. Spiritual sight. But we can see things differently because you've given us a different eye. I pray for clarity. 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 Your word says a double-minded man is unstable in all their ways. Clarity. And as we get clearer, I pray we trust you. Pray for every decision being made today. Those giving their life to you for the first time, those giving their life back to you, those joining this spiritual family called empowerment. Pray for those who are going to give today, that they would never be in lack, that they would sow in faith and by faith, believing that you're able to use their gifts, and not just use them, but multiply them. For fruit to come from their seed. Pray that they will have a confidence that where they're sowing is good ground. Have your way. Pray for the people who will hear this message because somebody else shares this. And that they too will know that there's no place that we can hide where you aren't willing to meet us. And there's no place that we've ever been you're not willing to lead us out of. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, listen, if you're here and need to make a decision, I want to invite you quickly to make the decision. Text the word CONNECT to 708-449-8197. The word CONNECT to 708-449-8197. Go to the church website, empowermentanywhere.com, and click that connect button. Right from there, you can make a decision to join this church family, give your life to the Lord, give your life back to the Lord, join a team, sow, ask for prayer. Whatever the case may be, text the word CONNECT. You'll get a card to 708-449-8197. 708-449-8197. The word CONNECT. Or click the link the hosts are making available for you if you're watching this during one of our live broadcasts. You can do it that way as well. Secondly, if you need to give today, to give back to the Lord who's graciously given to us so many great things in store through empowerment in 2022. And your giving helps fuel that. I strongly believe in the power of us giving and putting our best gifts first early in the year. It's a practice of mine I've done for some years now, and I believe it's helped me stay focused throughout the rest of the year. It's a practice you'll hear us talk a little bit about where we just believe in the reality of the fact that God honors our sacrifice, period. No questions about that. And some of us, we try to say, okay, well, I got to give my money back right after Christmas, and I got to do all this kind of stuff. You mismanage your resources that God gave you, and now you're telling God to hold on while you go back and get the money straight, the money He gave you. That's backwards. We put God first, and as we put God first, He shows us what He can do with us when we put Him first. You can text the word empowerment to 77977, 77977, the word empowerment. You can give by Cash App, $Empowerment Church, Empowerment Church. You can mail the gift into the P.O. Box. P.O. Box 335, Maywood, Illinois, 60153. Maywood, Illinois, 60153. Listen, on our church website, we started putting up some of the stats, and we're putting together this picture for you to see some of the things that we've done. I mean, we gave out well over $20,000 last year in benevolence and outreach and ministry work and those types of things. And we blessed so many people because of your gifts and your generosity. It's an incredible time. It's a privilege to serve such a incredible spiritual family. But I believe what we've done is only the beginning. I believe the best is yet to come. Your generosity, your financial partnership, without a doubt, helps us reach as many people as possible and see them empowered to win. I want to say thank you in advance for your gifts today. Thank you in advance for your belief in what God has done and your belief in what God is getting ready to do. Some of you already given this week, you've already sold. Maybe after hearing this word, though, you say, I've been settling for less than God's best. And you want to give a gift to God. You want to put your money where your mouth is. Say, God, I've been believing you in every area but my finances. I've been tipping you instead of tithing to you. I've been giving you what I wanted to give you instead of giving you what I'm supposed to give you. I want to invite you to do that today as well. You can text the word empowerment to 77977. Give by Cash App, $Empowerment Church. Mail it in P.O. Box 335, Maywood, Illinois. Listen, I miss you all. I love you all. I will talk with you later. If you join our after church hangouts and you're watching this at the 10 o'clock service, at the 10 o'clock service is an after church hangout immediately following this. Only after the 10 o'clock service. After church hangout, the link's on the church website. What's the after church hangout? It's time for you to get to know some of us to get to know some of you. It's like a virtual lobby. If we were in person, I would hang out after church every Sunday after church so I can get to see you, you get to see me. Well, the after church hangout is that, but virtual. That link's on the church website. They're also dropping in the chat for you if you're watching this live. That's only after the 10 o'clock service. Miss you all, love you all. I'll talk with you all later. Have an incredible day. Let's go.